All right, let's just get right into it. You've got a newborn, and they are absolutely perfect, and they are crying a lot. And you're sitting there trying to figure out what every single sound means. Are you hungry? Tired? Do you have a wet diaper? It can seriously feel like you're trying to solve the world's most stressful puzzle, right? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down some amazing insights from pediatrician Dr. Katie Wilkeson to give you a real practical guide for decoding what your baby is trying to tell you.
And look, right off the bat, if you're feeling completely and totally lost, you are in excellent company. This is a quote from Dr. Wilkeson, a pediatrician who admits that even with all her medical training, she was, in her words, terrible at this. So maybe the first and most important cue to read is your own. It is absolutely okay to feel overwhelmed. This isn't about being perfect. It's about learning a brand new language. You have to remember, this whole thing is new for both of you. Your baby is literally just learning how to tell you what they need, and you're just learning how to figure out what those signals mean. Dr. Wilkeson really stresses that you're not going to become an expert overnight. It takes time, a whole lot of patience, and a few key detective tools to start seeing with patterns.
So, what is the #1 tool in your detective kit? It's actually really simple: the clock. In what Dr. Wilkeson calls the newborn haze, it's so easy to lose track of everything. I mean, is it morning, night? Who knows? But paying attention to that clock is your secret weapon for making sense of all the fussiness.
Okay, so if the clock is our guide, there are two super critical timelines we need to track: wake windows and feeding windows. And trust me, understanding the difference between these two is the key to getting ahead of your baby's needs before they even get upset.
Now here is the one detail that trips up so many parents. The starting point for each of these is different. A wake window for a tiny newborn is only about 60 minutes long, and it starts the second they open their eyes from a nap. But a feeding window is usually 2 to 3 hours, and it's timed from the start of their last feed. Getting that little distinction right is a game changer for figuring out if that fussiness is because they're tired or because they're hungry.
And let's be real, you cannot rely on a sleep-deprived brain to remember any of this. Dr. Wilkeson's advice here is just brilliant because it's so simple. Use an external brain. Seriously, whether it's a little note card you keep on the changing table or an app on your phone, just write these times down. It frees up your mental energy to focus on what actually matters: cuddling your baby.
All right, now that we've got the clock covered, let's move on to our next set of clues, the physical ones. The whole goal here is to become a pro at spotting those early, subtle hints, way before the full-blown crying even has a chance to start.
The key to sleep is catching it early. You see, an overtired baby doesn't just quietly drift off. They often, as Dr. Wilkeson puts it, go crazy, and they become so much harder to settle down. So keep an eye out for that zoned-out 1,000-yard stare, that first little yawn or a little rub of the eyes. Those are your signals to start winding things down for a nap before the meltdown begins.
And what about hunger? Well, just like with sleep, crying is actually a late sign. Before that, your baby's going to give you plenty of hints. You'll see them start to purse or smack their little lips. They'll bring their hands up to their mouth. And you'll see that classic rooting reflex where they turn their head to the side, searching for something to eat. Think of these as your 5-minute warnings that a meal is on the horizon. Okay, now for something that Dr. Wilkeson calls weird baby stuff that can really freak parents out. You might see your baby grunting and groaning and turning all red, and you'll probably assume they're in horrible pain. But a lot of the time, it's just this: infant dysphagia. All it is their brain learning how to coordinate contracting their tummy muscles while relaxing their bottom to pass gas. It looks super dramatic, but it's a completely normal part of their development that they just grow out of. So we've talked about time, we've talked about physical cues, but what happens when you miss the signs? The baby is wailing and your own stress level is just shooting through the roof. Well, Dr. Wilkeson says the most important first step you can take in that moment has absolutely nothing to do with the baby. It has everything to do with you.
This is the 5-minute reset, and it is such a critical tool. When you feel yourself getting overwhelmed, it is 100% okay, in fact it's recommended, to do this. Put your baby down in their crib or bassinet, where you know they are totally safe, step out of the room, and just give yourself 5 minutes to breathe and reset.
So why does this work? Because when your own stress hormones are firing on all cylinders, it is biologically impossible to think clearly and solve problems. By calming yourself down first, you're actually becoming better equipped to go back in there and calmly figure out what your baby really needs. Just remember this: a calm parent is an effective parent.
Looking for another powerful way to bring those stress levels down for everybody? Skin-to-skin contact. The science on this is crystal clear. Just placing your baby, in only a diaper, directly on your bare chest lowers stress hormones for both of you. It regulates their heart rate, it regulates yours. It's just a fundamental tool for reconnecting and finding a little bit of calm.
So let's kind of pull back for a second and look at the bigger picture here. The goal isn't to become some kind of flawless baby mind reader. It's about building a predictable, comforting world for your baby and really truly embracing the idea of being a good enough parent. You know, a routine is one of the best ways to create that predictable world. Dr. Wilcoxon suggests a super simple framework for bedtime, the 4 Bs: bath, book, bottle or breast, and then bed. It doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to happen every single night, but that gentle repetition helps cue your baby's brain that, hey, it's time to start winding down for sleep.
And that communication, it goes way beyond just decoding cries. Start talking, reading, and just narrating your day to your baby right from the very beginning. And yeah, you might feel a little silly talking to someone who can't talk back yet, but all that early language exposure is building the foundation for their development in absolutely incredible ways. You're learning their language, and you're teaching them yours.
So after all this, let's just ask the question directly. Are you feeling overwhelmed by all of it? By the crying, the tracking, the constant second-guessing yourself? If your answer is yes, I really want you to listen closely to this final point.
That feeling of being totally overwhelmed, it is not a sign that you're failing. According to Dr. Wilcoxon, it's a sign of one thing and one thing only. You care. You care so deeply about your child's well-being. It's the hallmark of a parent who is trying their absolute best. That feeling is direct evidence that you are already a great parent.
And we're going to leave you with this final thought, a direct quote that every single new parent needs to hear. Your child doesn't need you to be a perfect parent. Your child needs you to be a good enough parent. Perfection is impossible, but showing up, caring, learning, and loving your baby through all the confusion, that is so much more than good enough. That's everything.